Thank you very much. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I have to acknowledge the presence of the head of our probation and prison service, who is Vivian Gearan and Michael Donlan. They're being here today as an example of the integrated approach that we're adopting. My good friend, Deputy Damien English, who I know has a particular interest in this area. I'm genuinely pleased and honoured to officially launch the 2012 annual report of the Irish Association for the Social Integration of Offenders, or IASSIO, as you're calling yourselves. Not that complicated a name. There's an organisation in Europe called IASO, so you've just added an I. But you're doing something very different and something hugely important. I'm conscious this is the first annual report that you're producing, and I think it's a significant milestone in your development. I'd like to begin by thanking your chairperson, Pat Lynch, for his kind invitation to address you here today. I also want to take the opportunity to thank your fellow board members, your management and staff, for all the work that's culminated in the publication of today's report. As I think some of you here know, I have a particular interest in this area, and I genuinely welcome all efforts that are being made to assist with the social integration of offenders into our communities. It's of crucial importance that people don't simply serve a prison sentence and then they're simply thrown back into the community with no assistance. If we're to truly reduce the level of recidivism, if we're truly to recreate opportunities or create for some their first opportunities in life, this type of work, this type of engagement is absolutely vital. I understand that IASSIO was formed in April 2012 when 3 programmes formerly managed by Business in the Community Ireland transferred to this newly formed association. As all of you here know, these are linkage, gate and resettlement programmes. The 2012 annual report highlights in considerable detail the work of IASSIO in providing much needed services to offenders through the 3 programmes. I found the report very interesting. I got a sneak preview of it. I was able to read it yesterday evening before I officially launched it, and I was frankly hugely impressed by the involvement, the extent of the work and what is being done. The latest of these programmes in the context of the various programmes is a linkage programme which supports the integration of offenders into the working community. It provides training, employment and guidance services and is funded by the probation service. Finding employment is one of the key factors in helping offenders to desist from crime. And without the work done by the linkage training and employment officers, the particular challenges that probation clients and ex-prisoners face in seeking employment would be overwhelming. They help offenders to make a range of informed choices and support them in taking progressive steps to employment, steps that are achievable and sustainable. Of the 1,966 people who engaged with the linkage programme in 2012, it's interesting to read these steps have led 618 persons to place in training or education, 204 of these to an employment placement. Given the times we're in, I think these figures represent worthwhile, genuine achievements. And while I know there's always more to be done, I know all of you working in this area probably feel there's more that can be achieved. I think you deserve congratulations on what has been achieved so far. The gate and resettlement programmes are funded by the Irish Prison Service. Unfortunately, I know it can be the case that any progress prisoners make while in prison to tackle their offending behaviour and develop their true potential can be all but lost following their release from custody if the necessary support placements aren't available. The gate and resettlement programmes help to address this by providing practical assistance and support to offenders as they make the transition from prison to living again in the community. The GATE programme works with prisoners to develop plans to assist their reintegration into the working community following their release. Through the provision of guidance and a placement service operating within the prison, the appropriate training, education and employment opportunities are identified. This assists prisoners' progress towards independence after release and ultimate reintegration. We resettlement programme provides support assistance to prisoners in accessing essential services to meet identifiable needs. Following release, offenders are supported in assessing housing, addiction and other services, while at the same time offered continued personal support. And I'm pleased to note that both of these programmes exceeded their target set for 2012. Indeed, from reading the report, it seems you exceeded all of your targets set. And again, I want to congratulate you on that. The first year in operation of any organisation is a very important milestone, and I know it brings its own challenges. I'd like to compliment the Chairman, Board, CEO and staff of IASIO who have worked in partnership with the Probation Service, the Irish Prison Service, to manage a smooth transition to the new corporate structure. I believe that this newly formed structure has allowed the management and staff of IASIO to support and add value to the work of the Probation Service and the Prison Service, which has facilitated the provision of new services to reintegrate offenders into communities. It's also important here today to acknowledge the work of Business in the Community Ireland, which laid the very important solid foundation for the work now being done. I know that both Probation and Prison Services appreciate their involvement and support in establishing the Linkage programme 13 years ago, and more recently the GATE and resettlement programmes. As many of you know, IASIO is jointly funded by the two agencies of my department, the Irish Prison Service and the Probation Service. And of course, each of them are basically funded by our department. And for us to get the funding every year, I have to have a constructive, but on occasions critical engagement with Minister Howden's department. And in those engagements, I regard the work you're doing as of great importance, and the work the Prison and Probation Service is doing of great importance. Even though we're in difficult financial times, there are, and I agree with what was said earlier, there are occasions when dealing with financial issues, you can save a small sum of money in the short term and not only contribute to the difficulties people are experiencing having released from prison in the medium term, but contribute to greater expense to the state in the long term. And on occasions we have to be careful how we deal with these areas. I hope and I think in the context of our department we have tried to distinguish between the different services, and whilst everyone has been under financial pressure, we have tried to identify services in which we try and protect the funding as much as is possible within the difficult context within which we operate. To put it in context, in 2013 I have available to me to maintain all the services across the Justice family approximately 165 million less than was available in 2011. That makes everyone's life difficult, and in the context of all of the services, many of them are vital and crucial within the particular areas within which they operate and the impact they have on people's lives. Because the Irish Prison Service and the Probation Service share the common goal of maintaining public safety through the reduction of offending by those in their care, whether they are offenders placed directly under probation supervision by the courts or sentenced to custody. They have a very real commitment to try and tackle the problem of recidivism. They are both committed to a multi-agency approach in all their work, including planning and managing the release of offenders in that transition back into the community. And I attach particular value to the integration of the services, to the common strategy that's now in place, which is a tribute to both Michael and Vivian and the fantastic cooperative work that they do. I'm going to actually embarrass them by asking all of you to give them a round of applause. Genuinely, from all my contacts with them, two very special people doing a very special job to which they are totally committed. I'm pleased to say that specific actions in the interagency cooperation are clearly set out in the Joint Strategic Programme, which I mentioned, which we published last May, of the Prison and Probation Services. The important support provided by IASIO to both organisations through the various programmes enhance their capacity to achieve rehabilitation and resettlement objectives. I believe it all helps good outcomes for individuals and communities across the country. And I think it's of huge importance that so many people outside the prison service, the official prison service and the probation service, from a community perspective, are engaged and involved in this work. Because I think it contributes to a wider understanding within the broader community as to what our objectives are, the difficulties on occasions in achieving them, and the cooperation and assistance and occasions volunteerism that's of huge added value, which ultimately will benefit everyone who lives at this stage. The work that's done is really important, and your commitment is greatly admired. The report provides much more detail, of course, some of which you've already been given, and it clearly demonstrates everyone's real and true commitment. The case studies and client profiles in the report show clearly the real practical benefits involved, particularly in providing support and hope to those who wish to change their offending ways to a positive and purposeful lifestyle. In this way, and particularly in these difficult economic times, we can assist people to become valued, pro-social members of society. And for many of them, something of great importance to develop confidence in themselves and to value themselves. Because many of those who have got into our prison system and who come from a variety of different backgrounds, in fact, strangely, despite what may be the outward appearance, have little self-confidence and little self-value. And if we can restore that and imbue in them a sense of social responsibility and understanding of how their past conduct has impact on communities and how they can do better for themselves, we're making huge progress. So I want to again congratulate the ASIO on their achievements in the first year of operation. I think we've established a proven ability to adapt to the changing needs of the probation and prison service, particularly in supporting the delivery of the new Community Return Initiative, which is going so well and which has provided us with an opportunity to return to the community a number of those who've been sentenced to terms of imprisonment prior to them being entitled to remission, but having behaved well in prison and being determined to pose no risk to the community, to give them an opportunity of an earlier release to the benefit of the wider community in the context of reducing the cost of running the prison service and in particular contributing to the community by engaging in community service and in a small way paying back to the community for their conduct which has led to them being imprisoned. This Community Return Initiative is working particularly well, and again it's due to the coordinated integrated approach by the Prison and Probation Service. The work outlined, as I see, for 2013 is very challenging. I wish you well with that. I genuinely want to thank everyone involved for everything that you're doing. I look forward to hearing of your continued progress, your continued success. You can take it absolutely for granted that insofar as I can be supportive of the work in which you're engaged as Minister, I will be, so far as I can get the message out to my Cabinet colleagues of the value of this work, the importance of maintaining crucial funding. Many of my colleagues in Cabinet will be very pleased to hear of the work you're doing, and I hope to have their support in ensuring that we don't add any additional funding difficulties to your work. And I hope we are, as things are slowly improving, heading into a landscape in which instead of cutting budgets in these areas, we will create the facility to expand. I can't promise that for 2040, but I certainly hope we'll be in that space in 2050. And again, thank you for all the work you're doing. I think everyone here who's engaged in this work should give themselves a round of applause on getting to this point. Thank you very much.